doing some turnouts and harness, but don't get many chances to see the heavy horses doing what they're supposed to do, working. And we're so lucky at this rally to have this team of guys with their different machines come along every year. We'll give them a theme and they go out to find the machinery related to that theme. It's wonderful to see. Now Robert Nelson's in next with another single horse, this time with a hay kicker. Now you see the action of the tines of this machine, they're all revolving round the crank. And that goes over the bout of grass and it flicks the hay up, again lets the air and the sun into the greener bits it's never had a chance to dry before. So, great lineup of stuff. This is Robert here. He's got that hay kicker rattling on the back, and when that hay kicker engages into work, the horse will feel resistance. The shaft will pull on the chains there. Pulling in the hens on the collar there. The horse will feel that and they'll know it, someone's a foot behind them. But in such good order, these horses that they're going well. Now, the next piece of hay making equipment, once all the hay was dry, and the hay turners would go through the crop, swapping it up, and we get weather like this every day for I don't know, 5 days or something like that, the hay would be ready. And in the days before the balers, the traditional way of making hay in this... And the horse just pulling away as the load gets heavier and heavier, the horse just keeps striding on. And he'll come up to the end and he'll get into another bout there and get going. And the horses have performed absolutely impeccably. And it's great, they've got a lot of distractions in the ring today. There's everybody wanting to take pictures, I'm blaring away in the microphone. And of course with video men wanting to get them at the right angle as well, so they've done a grand job. Now they're taking the deflectors off the dicky and that will let you see do another job. You can change the direction of the rotors so they can throw 2 into 1 from either side. William Dickey was an East Guardbridge company that first invented the Dickey hay turner in 1910, and eventually the tractor drawn version was to tip up for hay for this hay flock to work. So you'll see he gets it up here. Now this is so we get the idea why it's called tumbling tam. Just when he wants to drop it off, he lifts the handles and the tines catch into the ground and the whole machine just tumbles right over, and then we lift to the time, the handles dig into the ground and the thing comes back. Tip it out. But I know that they were involved at the festival of the heavy horse down at Wooler in Northumberland, putting on a haymaking demonstration down there. But we like to think we've gone one better here, and we'll have the horse fork working as well.
In the morning, the pole was erected and the jib hanging out. The young man at the top of the ladder is pulling the wire through. This is so that the jib part can move up and down.
Drop down into the pile of the hay. The jaws will be open. You see how the jaws have now opened out? And that'll be pulled over. And you see how the jib swings round on the centre pole, and then you put the grab into the hay, and Morris comes forward, slackens the rope, the hook, the fork drops down into the crop, and then the rope's pulled to tighten the jaws round, and there's a catch goes on it to lock them, and then once Robert's satisfied that the hooks are all clamped up there, you get Morris to reverse back, and it'll pull, the rope will tighten and pull the grab up. So let's see how we get on, the first one of the afternoon. There he goes. And you'll see the rope on the ground tightening up, and it goes up. You'll see round the pulleys, up the side of the pole, to the pulley at the top of the pole, and then it starts to pull up the pulley in the end of the jib, and you see how it lifts up there. And then Robert has the ropes there. He's able to swing the jib round, and they'll drop the hay onto the trailer. And normally you would just take this whole load and drop it into the baler, but we don't really want to run the risk of a big lump going in and throwing the belts off, things like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop it on the trailer. It lets you see it landing, and then they're going to fork it from the trailer into the baler, and they'll be able to control how much goes in at once and make it a much smoother operation. So they're getting all these forkfuls of hay hooked up. Just going to go back a wee bit, just tighten the rope again, lift it a wee bit to get it to drop into the hay. Once we get all the hay loaded onto the trailer, then we can get the Scottish Plough Championships parade underway while they're getting all this going. A lot to get through today, so we certainly don't want to be running out of time. So if you've got an exhibit here from the Scottish Plough Championship stand, you'll be parading quite soon. So all the Scottish Plough Championship exhibitors, if you get ready to parade, we're going to get you in very soon. Morris is actually part of that lineup, but his tractor was available. As Rab says, he kind of knows what he's doing, so we'll put Morris on the end of the rope to work the fork, and he's got an accomplice there, so the pair of them are going to fork this in. Xander Cook's up on the foot plate of the engine. Horse's head of the baler there going into the chamber, plunging that straw in. And now the men on the top will fork the hay onto the feed bed, and there's hooks that come along the floor. You'll see the thing sliding back and forward underneath the tray, and they're bringing hooks. When it's going back, the hooks are folded down, and when they get to the end, the hooks pop up through the floor, and on the stroke back down towards the donkey's head, the hooks are up, and they drag the hay down, and that donkey's head plunges the hay into the chamber. And the same mechanism that's driving the hooks is also driving a ram, and that ram is pushing the hay and compressing it into tight wads, and you'll see it coming out of the chamber there, and as the hay bale gets formed by the ram, they can get the needles. They have to use hand-inserted needles to put the string or the wire through. I'm not quite sure what they're going to tie with today, whether it's wire or twine, but then they can push the needle through and get the ends of the string and tie them behind. There's no knotters or anything like that. It's all hand-tied, just like the very early pickup balers. The two men sat on either side of the chamber and tied them all behind. So there you go. When would be the last time you would see a steam engine driving a stationary baler getting fed with a hay fork? Probably a unique sight we've got organised for you today. One of the lengths we go to at this club for our annual rally. Thank you to all the heavy horse boys, Dave and Robert Nelson, Ross Kinnear, Benny Duncan, and all their helpers for their help in setting this show up, and thanks to John Rennie from Carnoustie bringing his baler, and the cooks from Leven for bringing their engine. This could date back to 100 years ago when they were baling hay. The Ministry of Defence, or the Ministry of War, would go round farms buying up hay. and they would send teams round with a steam engine and a stationary baler, and a horse fork would be used to take the loose hay out the stack and feed it into the stationary baler. Well, there you go, what a wonderful, wonderful sight we have today. On the grid. And there we go, the hay fork has got that hay all right up, and I'm wondering if we could maybe unroll a couple more bales in the middle of the ring, some of the guys for the tractor hay turners. Now, if you just stand by, because here's the tractors for the Scottish Plough Championship parade coming in. He's on the rope for the hay fork as part of this parade. He'll get unhitched and you'll be able to join in as well. And first one in is Raymond Smart with a 14N and an international trailing plough. And this represents the trailing plough class. The Scottish Championships, which I said take place in Newlands and Fittendreek Farm along near Loch Leven on the 25th and 20th.
A demonstration of a pike bogey being loaded with a round bale.
A big smooth floor that's edged with a bit of tin bed over it now. And the bogey's pushed right in under it. Now, once it's backed into the base of the ruck, you'll see how there's a rope being unwound. There's a cradle on that rope. And that's going to go round the bottom of the bale. It goes round and they join the two halves together. And now the windlass part of the contraption here, they unwind the rope, they put it on a single tree here, and they'll put it onto the horse. The horse will be backed in. There's different ways of doing this. You can actually put a handle on it and wind it on by hand. But in a lot of places there was a horse in the field. Every time the hay bogey came into the field, the horse was hitched up just as they're doing here. They'll hitch it up, they'll get the chains out and they'll hook on the single tree at the back, and then the rope from the windlass will be attached to the single tree, and then as the horse walks forward it will all become very apparent. Now, the horses have performed magnificently today. They've had to work in a very busy ring with tractors going round them all the time, but they've done a grand job. Now, all the people that's involved with this beef display, I hope you're all sorted out, especially John Eccles and his team and Bob Thompson. Now see the horse going forward, it pulls that windlass round and it pulls the bale up onto the bed of the bogey. Now that bale represents a rock, it keeps going further and further forward past the point of balance, and the bogey tips back flat again and the catch goes in and locks it, and that's ready to be carted back to the stack yard and built into a stack. And that's now. This is going to be something special for you today. We're absolutely delighted that Bill Allen has come all the way from Sillett in Cumbria with his pike maker, and the Nelsons have supplied the green crop loader that's going to fill it. And Benny Duncan, his horses are used to going in the pole, so they're ideal for going on it. Now, they walk up the bout, you'll see the pike maker runs over the top, and you'll see the tines on the back of the green crop loader. It's picking up that hay and it's walking it up. It walks it up the top, and Bill's in. Bill's got he's got the raw end of the deal. It's his machine and he's got to be inside it. And he's got to tramp all that hay into this coal, into this ruck. And they reckon it takes about a big bale to fill it. But you see how the hay's walking up the ruck there? But we've kind of got a scene here that's sort of reminiscent of the late 50s, where we still had the odd horse working on farms, and they were all working in the fields alongside the tractors. And the horses, I must say, have performed magnificently today. They've had a very, very tricky job, because we didn't really know how it was all going to pan out, and just because of time constraints, we've had to squeeze everything up to get everything done today. And the horses have pretty much had to work alongside tractors all day, and they've now here we go. Berry, he's got them, they're a wee bit fresh. And the horses seem to like working, going that direction, so Benny's brought them down to this end, and they're going far better just to get the last of that hay picked up and into the pike maker. So there we go. Well done, Benny. And a grand job of your horses there. They're used to high stepping on the show turnouts with the drays and the carts. Now you see how the hay now has filled up the ruck. And the boys up the top of that pike maker have had a hard shift. Can you imagine working on that all day? Now, what's the next stage in the operation? Meanwhile, the Ross and Robbie here have been raking the field quite the thing and tidying it up. But we're going to do that with a tractor and rake, but thankfully Ross is doing it with a horse rake, getting it all tidied up. And this green crop loader, they're going to pick up more and get the field nice and tidy. There's nothing worse for rotting out grass and hay lying about on it, so we want to try and get all the hay tidied up and make sure we don't damage any grass from our generous hosts, the Dawsons, who thankfully have given this wonderful site here at Seggie. And we've had a lot of positive comments today about the site, and we'd be only too delighted to hear more, your views on it from exhibitors and spectators alike, what you think of our site here and what you think of what we've done for you today. We're always looking for fresh ideas and ways we can improve our event. And there they are, tidily picking up all the hay that's been raked up and making a grand job of tidying up the field. And of course, hay was a vital commodity. We couldn't afford to waste any. It was all needed to feed all the animals throughout the winter. And it all gets walked up there. And it doesn't need hay to push it up. The tines take it all up, and it takes it all up to the top and drops it off and leaves a nice clean bed there on the machine. So they've just about got it all gathered. And he picks up another lot there. It gets a good shot. If you've got your cameras at the side of the ring, you'll get a nice head-on shot there. Meanwhile, Bill and his compatriot there have been tramping it all in as it fills up the basket. Here it comes down again. He's got it working now, coming this direction. It's going well, and we're getting a well-filled basket up there. And he'll swing it around, and I take it he's going to come back uphill again and pick up. And horses are really going well now. Ideal to have a pair of horses used to working together on a pole to pull this machine. I thought we'd do it with a tractor, but it's wonderful that Benny has got a pair of horses that are used to going on a pole to put on a wonderful display here. And that's the last of the hay. Ross is raking up a bit more. There we go, it's all gathered up. Now they're going to tip it out up this end, and they're going to use it, and they're going to give us another wee demonstration of putting it through the square baler again, and we'll be able to still parade when all that's going on as well, so we're not going to run out of time here. We're very much on schedule. There's always a big risk whether we can do this on schedule, but we've done alright so far. We'll soon be getting close to our big climax, the draw to win this David Brown tractor, so if you're wanting to win this tractor, get your ticket spot now. The green crop loader will be unhitched, and the pike maker will be pulled forward out of the way of it. Then you'll get to see the thing in action. And this will be a bit different for the horses again because it's a different weight they're pulling now. They've probably noticed a change in the weight of machine. And Benny's making a grand job there, keeping them in order. Now, we've got to pull up chains and all sorts of things to get it to balance. Bill up the top there, and the dungarees, he seems to know how it all works. He's brought this all the way up. The chains there, I'm presuming hold the hay in as the basket turns over. There's the ladder going up to get Bill down. It should be full, Bill's saying, but we'll make do with what we've got. Now this is the next part in the operation. The pins come out, get folded out the side. Now you see how we can pull that right over. The chains will keep the crop in, and then the gates open at the back. Obviously if you're using this every day, it's a far slicker operation, but it's not every day you get a chance to work with one of these machines. But it's still a wonderful representation of a form of haymaking. And there the gates open at the back, the chains will be undone, and the horses will walk forward and leave a ruck left lying on the ground without a fork being used. Wonderful display, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. You just never get a chance to see that for a long, long time again. Thanks to Bill Allen for coming all the way from Sillith in Cumbria to demonstrate that for us. Wonderful, thank you, Bill. And thanks to Benny, to Ross and Robbie and Dave and Robert and all the helpers for the great job you've done with your horses. And as I say, this pile of hay is going to go through the baler for another wee spell. If Once we get the horses away, we'll get the commercial vehicles in, which includes this 1943 Bren carrier, which we'd like to get in the ring, especially with this being the 70th anniversary of D-Day this weekend. We'll get the Bren carrier in the ring and we'll do a little tribute to the D-Day landings. And get hitched up to this green crop loader.